Hi, this is Kelly Vess. Today's topic is an extremely important topic. It's talking about apraxia in children with autism spectrum disorder. So what we know from the very latest research is that it's estimated that a majority of the children with autism spectrum disorder present who are preverbal or who are minimally verbal present with apraxia of speech symptomology, or the best we can call it is apraxia of speech today, but I think that we're going to come up with a better term that describes what the children with autism spectrum disorder have that is similar to apraxia of speech. So we have to treat the speech sound disorder if we're going to help these children learn to talk, and we need to focus on the apraxia. So the topic today is so important, and I wanted to share with you just one thing that I do to make a difference and why I do what I do. So if you look at my website, you'll see there's these sentence strips of common objects and items that children can request. Now, we know from the research that children with autism spectrum disorder, they tend to have diffuse damage in the brain, but not in the visual cortex. So we always want to capitalize on the visual. So that's why we have the sentence strips. So many of the children I work with learn to read before they learn to talk. So I have a sentence strip here. Suppose we're doing one of our virtual activities. We go look at singing songs. Then after that, well, let's look at look. Why am I not using I want? Now, it's great that the teacher I work with uses I want, so we have the request function in the classroom. I use look because look is a comment. Comments are worth a lot more than requests when you look at outcomes at toddler age. So Amy Weatherby's CSBS, when she looks at children that score high on commenting, these are children that are going to develop communication very well. The children that score high on requesting, it doesn't have that predictive value that commenting does. So that's why I'm not using I want, I'm using look, because I do believe that language is a container of thought. I believe what William Labov says, language is a container of thought. And I find that when I teach the word look as a first word, what children end up doing is pointing and saying, look, 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 look. It's kind of like if you've ever met a child who uses the word more as a first word, and then they use more for everything. Well, what I find is when I teach look in my sentence strips as a first word, the children start talking and using look and pointing for everything, which is the golden apple. You want to see that more than anything else at the preschool age. And if the child is doing that, which is known as sharing, which is just using communication to share information with another, that is the best thing that could happen as far as communication is concerned. So now that is not the only thing I do, because I know that I want the body moving as well as the mouth, and I want motor imitation to occur. So if you want to improve social skills for children with autism spectrum disorder, you want to increase mirror neuron development, in which you see someone do something, and then it's as if you're doing it, and that promotes empathy. So if I see someone crying, it's going to be in my head as if I'm crying, and then I'm going to understand how they feel. So to promote motor neuron development, the best thing we can do is motor imitation. So when we're using the multimodal cue, let me show you what I do, and I'm going to do it in real time. And the reason I'm going to do it in real time is because I'm going to show you this isn't normal. I think that we've let these children with autism spectrum down because we've used approaches for the last 30 years that haven't worked. It hasn't worked. We haven't improved. We haven't taught these kids to talk. And we've been doing the same thing, and we've been doing what works with children who are neurotypical. We've been using approaches that work with children who are late talkers. And then when the child doesn't talk, we sometimes will say, well, the child has a cognitive impairment. I would say there is a cognitive impairment, but it lies in the intervention. We cannot deny that these children have limitations in the brain or have differences in the brain that require a different approach. We know there's damage in the area, for instance, of the auditory processing area of language, auditory perception. We know that there's damage, motor speech damage in the motor production area of the brain. So we need to use an approach that we would use with children that have motor speech disorder. So think about dynamic tactile temporal cueing. Think about, this is what we would do with a child with apraxia, where speech just doesn't come naturally. You're going to go slower. Okay, now let me show you real time how I would say the word look. And this is another reason why I say the word look. L is a long sound. It's a continuant. It's about 150 milliseconds. If I used an early developing sound, the stop sounds, P, B, T, D, you're looking at a 30 millisecond sound. If a child has auditory perception difficulties, the child is probably not going to hear that sound. But the child probably could hear a sound that's 5 times longer. So you really have to pay attention to your work and not be on autopilot. I can't be on autopilot and be doing what I do with neurotypical children when I'm dealing with a very neurodivergent brain. So when I do the word look, I'm going to go so slowly, 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 slowly. And that will give the child time to perceive the sound and time for the child to join in and produce the sound with you. I'm going to show you, because it's going to look weird, but we need to get outside of the box if we want to reach these children. How I say, look, and I'm going to use the cue along with it. Now what happens is the child will join me with the cue and do it with me. And what happens when the child does that is then we get mirror neuron development. Okay, so that's the social piece. So we're going to get the mirror neuron development as well as the speech development. Okay, let me show you. You're probably going to swipe because I'm going to take a long time to say the word look. Here it goes. Look. Now the child likes the caw because they get to breathe. So that's what it looks like. And yeah, it's not normal, but we have to stop doing normal if we're going to help these kiddos. And then that's how the child says look. And after the child has the motor planning through repetition to say the word look, the child isn't saying look a year later. The child saying, look, a bus, look, a car, look, this. So I hope that this is useful. This is on my website. And what I do is I put mine in alphabetical order and I just flip to whatever the activity is. So here we have look at safari animals, if I'm doing safari animals that day. And so I hope it's of use to you. Now, one last note, I am doing a presentation right now. I'm putting together for my vacation for these next 2 weeks on apraxia of speech. It's an all-day presentation for the Bureau of Education and Research. And I want to just knock it out of the park. I'm pulling out all of the stops on this because I know that the stakes are high in this topic, and I know that we can make a difference if we pay attention to all of the details of our practice. You can make a difference. You can help these children learn to talk. We don't have to do status quo anymore and not be effective. We can be effective, but I need your help. I need you to tell me, share, email me, leave something on the Facebook group, message me, tell me anything and everything that comes to mind when you're working with children with apraxia, when you're working with children with autism, that when those little things matter, that you notice that this is not normal. This is not status quo. Because when we pay attention to what is not status quo, we're going to be able to treat that. And we're going to be able to step out of the box and help these children so that they too can learn to talk. So please email me, please message me, research any experiences you had, any insight that's of so much value. Okay, help me out here. All right, have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.